Welcome once again to Cinemaholics. I'm John Negroni, co-founder of In Between Drafts, and I don't know. I feel like we've never had four of us like as a unit. It's always been either us two or we've had a third. But
Yeah,
Will
we've
Ashton.
had. Hello. Yeah, we've had like three people and a guest. So I guess that's the closest we've come to like Mr.
Oh, sure, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about like four regulars, right?
Mhm.
I feel like podcasts I think three is max for most.
I feel
Right?
like if this was something we did regularly, like once a week again, we would have asked probably Corey Woodruff and Charlie Ridgely to come on, or maybe I don't know.
Matt and Chris probably would come. I mean,
Yeah, or something. I was thinking probably at least one woman just to make it an actual Fantastic Four thing. You
who
would write.
be who?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be Sue. Why are you leaving?
Okay.
Come on now. I don't want to be Johnny Storm just because my name's John.
Yeah, I figured you'd be John. I would be Ben Grimm.
Obviously. I mean, it's not even...
And then we'd have, I don't know, somebody be Breed, and then we'd have a woman, I guess, be Sue. And then you would write...
I think, who would be Reed Richards? Abiel Chessie. Easy
Sure.
guys.
Yeah, I mean, if this was back in like 2020, for sure, that's what would have happened. And then you would write some sketch for the beginning of the show that I would contribute some notes to. And it would
have
be like
a catchphrase.
Yeah. It's
we'd have some sound effects be hammed up. Yeah. Fantastic Four, the first steps. Yeah. We haven't done a lot of reviews this summer. We talked about Superman, of course, and only fitting, only appropriate that we also talk about Fantastic Four first steps, because here we are again, the fourth officially released Fantastic Four movie. Sorry, not counting the Roger Corman one. Which did you ever see that one on one of those secret VHS tapes?
Yeah, it's on Internet Archive. I've been watching it casually. I'm gonna try to do a franchise
How do you
fixation.
Watch that casually? What?
Like not like
while you're walking down the street? Like what are you talking about? Like
no, like just like
playing on a TV in the shop? Like what?
No, just like in chunks, just on Internet Archive when I have some free time. It's
how far into it are you?
I think I'm like half an hour into it.
How long is it?
It's 90 minutes. It's a flat 90 minutes. Because I've also been casually watching the documentary about it, Doomed, to get more context for it. So I've been kind of just bouncing between the two to get a better understanding of the film, which was never officially released, so it was like, you can't really find a clean copy of it. It's all, scanned from somebody's VHS from the 2000s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, and then I certainly haven't seen it, but, we've had plenty of Fantastic Four movies, more Fantastic Four movies than I think is probably warranted. And, we're going to talk about this film. I don't think either of us are massive fans of the comics or anything, or super deeply entrenched in the lore, I want to say. I mean, is that untrue for you?
I like Fantastic Four. I've always found them to be pretty fun. A little bit, yeah. I mean, not deep awareness, but certainly more so than like Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, like most of the Marvel.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know this about you. Okay, that's great. That's great. That's good to know. Yeah, because I haven't read anything Fantastic Four comic-wise that hasn't been part of some other Marvel crossover. So I've read stuff where the Fantastic Four are there and they show up or they collaborate with Iron Man, Spider-Man, whatever. But I never got into like the standalone stuff, like the actual like Silver Age, especially Fantastic Four from the ground up. I've read more Doom Patrol than I have Fantastic Four. That's the DC's sort of version of Fantastic Four. But yeah, here we are movie-wise for the fourth time. This one's subtitled First Steps, which is a bit of irony, a bit of foreshadowing. We won't give away why it's called that, I guess. But you could say like there's irony to, it's once again on the silver screen, right? But the funny thing about that is the title sort of implies like, oh, does that mean we're getting like an origin story where, they're doing it again, right? And we've gotten the Fantastic Four origin story at least twice now through, both of the Fox kind of films, including the 2015 Josh Trank reboot. But no, this is not an origin film at all. We are jumping right into the Fantastic Four universe, kind of like if we started with like the second or third movie, honestly. Third movie is probably more appropriate. This time, though, doing the camera-ing, the directing, Matt Shakman, who of course did WandaVision. Will Ashton did not watch WandaVision, has no interest in WandaVision.
No.
If you ask him to watch WandaVision, he's going to punch you in the face.
That's not true.
Sorry, in the stomach.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mostly know Matt Shakman from his TV work.
Yes.
Which I guess WandaVision also is to an extent. But he did a lot of episodes of Always Sunny. He's actually done some of the best episodes of Always Sunny. And he did some Fargo. I think he also, I'll say that I think he did like Games of Thrones and some other stuff.
He did, okay, so yes, he did some Game of Thrones. Only like 2 episodes, I want to say. But he did one of the best episodes.
Yeah, he did the one battle episode, right?
Yeah, a big battle episode. It's really good. But yeah, no, so he's done film, or he did Everwood was one of his first like breakout shows. He did a few episodes of. He did a little bit of like that kind of tone, that kind of like CW, like Summerland, stuff like that. He did some 6 Feet Under, One Tree Hill, but he wasn't doing like, he didn't have his own show. He wasn't doing like a lot of recurring TV where he's doing like lots of episodes beyond like maybe like 2 or 3 until he got to maybe like Psych. He did a little bit of extra work on. He did a bunch of House. That's how I first kind of fell into like Matt Shakman. Was he did, I want to say like 5 or 6 episodes of House. And I remember 2 of them being particularly noteworthy toward the end of the show.
Oh, okay.
Are you not a fan of House? You're giving me this look.
Oh, I didn't realize you watched it. I watched a fair bit of the early.
Sure.
I fell off, after maybe the first couple seasons, but I liked the first season. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes off the rails and then some. Yeah, he's in tons of, like, we could spend all day going through. But yeah, Fargo, of course, You're the Worst. He did a lot of work on.
How dare you?
He did 1 episode of Succession. Say again?
I said, how dare you? He said, you're the worst. I was
joking. I couldn't keep up with your wit. He also has done some directing. So you mentioned It's Always Sunny. He's directed episodes, but he also directed episodes of like that Heroes Reborn kind of thing. They try to get off the
thing. Yikes.
He directed American Gothic, and then he ended up he directed The Great, I think the pilot episode. But really, what kind of brought him in was WandaVision, because that was like he directed, I think, almost the entire season, because it was like 10 episodes, 9 episodes, something like that. And after that, his phone started ringing off the hook. He did Monarch Legacy of Monsters as well for Apple. I don't think you ever got into that one, right?
I was curious about it. I honestly forgot about it. It was one of those like, yeah, it seems fun. And then it came and went. Sure
thing. But yeah, no, he did, this is his 2nd film ever. The only other film he did was Cut Bank, which I certainly did not watch.
Yeah, I haven't watched that either. I think it's like sort of like a Coen knockoff. I think that's maybe how he got Fargo.
Yeah, it's like Liam Hemsworth, Teresa Palmer, Billy Bob Thornton. Nobody watched it. Great cast, though. I mean, Michael Stuhlbarg, Bruce Dern, Billy Bob. I mean, come on. John Malkovich, give me a break. But yeah, no, this is really his big, like, all right, here's Matt Shakman. Here's what he can do. And he's guiding one of the original Marvel properties, like one of the really like cornerstone ones, because people forget. I mean, Marvel was not as established as DC in the 1960s. They were still kind of like coming into their own through things like Spider-Man, and Fantastic Four was very monumental to their early success. Jack Kirby, of course, Stan Lee, and Ditko, and all of them kind of came about during this era. And instead of rebooting the origin story again, we have them kind of more settled. We have Pedro Pascal playing Reed Richards. The joke has been made plenty, but this is his year. I mean, dude's in like 4, 5, 6 things this year of note. I mean, between The Last of Us Season 2, The Materialists, Eddington, I'm forgetting a bunch of other things. The guy's having a year and then some. What am I forgetting?
I think that's pretty much everything. He was in Wild Robot last year. He was also in Gladiator 2 last year. So it just kind of feels like it blends together, I think.
Yeah, you see his face, you're like, and look, I'm for it. I'm a Pedro Pascal fan. He brings a lot of energy and optimism to the industry, in my opinion. I think he's just a very likable guy. People like him. People enjoy, his shtick. And I like his acting as well. He's one of those guys who like doesn't seem to take acting too seriously, but then once in a while he'll dial it in, and you're like, oh yeah, this guy is really good. usually he's just so like kind of, what's the word? Like he just kind of glides on air, basically. He's like very bright and happy. Hey, I'm Pedro Pascal, whatever. He did that Wonder Woman, movie and was ridiculous in that. But anyway, so
Freaky Tales was the other one from this year.
Yeah, there was something else.
Which is ironic that I kind of forgot about that because that's one of his better performances.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
We also have Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm getting lots of praise for this movie. I mean, Vanessa Kirby, very praiseworthy as an actress in general, has been doing fantastic work for a long time, really on my radar since The Crown. And we also have Joseph Quinn, who is Johnny Storm in this. Johnny, I gotta say, Joseph Quinn, he was in Gladiator 2 last year, but Stranger Things was kind of one of his kind of like a big introduction for him to the mainstream. This is only going to like boost his profile even further. And we have Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing. And, people will recognize him, of course, from The Bear. He's been around for a long time, though. I mean, other people will recognize him from Girls, but he's been doing stuff like
Marnie's boyfriend for like a season or so. Yeah, that's the main thing I know him from. I don't know him as Cuz or whatever from The Bear.
I'm surprised you haven't given The Bear a shot. It's truly one of the best TV shows of the decade so far, in my opinion, and many others. But, what you going to do, I guess. But he was in like Stealth. He was in Mona Lisa Smile. He was in Royal Tenenbaums, a small role in that.
He's young.
He's been working for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, he's young in Royal Tenenbaums. Was he also in Squid and the Whale?
Squid and the Whale? I don't think so.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, but unless I'm forgetting, maybe he had a small part that I forgot. But
no. So. I think I was conflating Royal Tenenbaums and Squid and the Whale for some reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then he's done lots of TV work, more known for his TV stuff. But yeah, here he is. He's back. He's got his big theatrical role that really feels like a response to how he's kind of broken through pop culture through The Bear, right? A lot of people know who he is now. And then we have Galactus, Ralph Ineson, and Silver Surfer played by Julia Gardner. But yeah, so the setup of this movie is really interesting. We have a retro-futuristic 1960s setting. You don't have to watch any of the other Marvel movies to watch this one. It's not set in the same universe as all the other Marvel stuff. It's its own thing. But of course, it's kind of teasing that it will be connected eventually. But I don't mind that. I'm kind of like, yeah, just do something on its own. We don't need like other characters show up in this. It's fine. But it is kind of taking a lot from Fantastic Four, the idea of like these big cosmic threats, and the production design is echoing so much Silver Age stuff. This is the kind of Fantastic Four movie that I have been hoping for, and a lot of people have been asking for at least a decade, if not more, ever since Marvel really started to get a hot streak and talk started to come down the pike of like, ooh, Disney might bite Fox. This is back before 2019. There were a lot of like, well, how do you do Fantastic Four, right? Because like after 2015, people are like trying to do the contemporary thing. It just doesn't quite work. The 2000s movies with like Jessica Alba and Michael Chiklis, I mean, they're charming for their time, but they're not great movies. I mean, they just really feel like very forgettable. And so what do you do? Like, how do you make Fantastic Four work? Because if you try to do dark, it doesn't quite work. So many people have been saying, well, just set it in the 60s, like take on the comic aesthetic, what made it popular in that era, and find a creative way to adapt it to the now, right? And that's exactly what this movie does. This is what, Incredibles basically did in 2004, right? The blueprint has been there for a while. And well, I know you're going to dig into this movie. I'm very curious about what you think, but I have to get it off my chest. I should love this thing. I mean, I don't know exactly why I don't. There was just something about this movie, aside from one or two set pieces that I'm sure I've heard lots of people have praised endlessly. There are things in this I like, fine, but I didn't feel much in this. And I just genuinely found it kind of flat. I found it to be truly missing something that I couldn't get there. And this is my thing. This is what I think it is. I think that Matt Shakman is a TV guy. And this movie feels like a condensed TV show. You can tell this thing should have been like 3 hours at least, because there are so many threads that don't get tied up well, things that they just use these perfunctory scenes to wrap up, things that just feel like would be like an entire episode of a TV show, like with Natasha Lyonne's character, where instead it's just kind of like, here's like a quick little, you know what I mean? it's sad because I think like if they had done the WandaVision treatment, I don't think that would have necessarily worked because the budget and then, it's fine to do the movie, but I don't think Shakman is a movie guy. And I think the takeaway from this movie's been hugely successful. It's making a ton of money and critics are loving it. And I think Shakman's going to make more movies. I hope he gets better at it because in just my opinion, I'm on an island, so don't listen to me, obviously, but I just don't think he has the goods. I don't think he's a film director based on what I'm seeing. He's a TV guy. He's good at TV. I don't know. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy. Yeah, I think I walk away with like a mental checklist of like, all right, I like these things. I didn't like these things. Like, it's kind of, I find myself somewhere in the middle on this one. It seems like pretty middle of the pack MCU as far as these things are concerned. I guess to go off of,
people are saying they love this movie. Like they are giving it 4 or 5 stars. I'm confused. And I'm like, I want to be there where they are. So like hearing you say that, I'm like, okay, we're not going to have a fight.
Yeah, I feel like this is a hard movie to love because there's just not a lot to it.
What is it?
Like, I mean,
what's it about?
Right. I mean, to kind of go off of some of the things that you already discussed, so I can kind of jump off of some of my thoughts, I guess. As far as the whole idea, it's interesting that this and Superman came out in the same month because they're both taking the like, all right, let's just pretend this is the second one. Let's get to the stuff that we really want to do. Let's pretend the first movie.
Trend.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about it, to be honest. I think it worked fine for Superman because we've already had one, I would argue two, good origin stories for Superman. And it's like, okay, we don't really need to do this. Everyone knows Superman, the iconography is embedded into the wool of the American flag. It's like, okay, we can kind of just jump to the stuff we want to do. That's fine. I don't love it, but it's fine. With Fantastic Four, it's like, okay, I get why you want to do that, but we haven't seen this done well cinematically. I mean, I think the 2000s films have their charm. I certainly think they're more memorable than you give them credit. And I really enjoy Michael Chiklis in particular. I think is really fun in that movie. In those movies, I should say. I think Chris Evans is good in those movies. I think he fit that part pretty well. I think
it was cool to see him in Deadpool and Wolverine. I was like, oh yeah, he could still do it.
Sure, I kind of forgot that he was in that. But except for his really tragic, dark death, spoiler alert for that movie.
Pretty good.
But in any case, yeah, I mean, as far as this movie goes, it's a type of film where I feel like they mistake production design for style in the sense of like, yeah, it's the sort of thing where I am assuming they hired Matt Shakman because he was able to get the WandaVision 60s, 50s, 70s thing down pat for those episodes and in a way that's nostalgic but gets the plot moving. I'm assuming they hired him for that reason. And like aesthetically, yeah, it looks really nice. I think it looks more cinematic in that perspective than a lot of the recent Marvel movies that aren't Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But at the same time, as you were mentioning, I think it's kind of flat because there's like no pulp to it. It doesn't feel like there's a clear like filmmaker, not only that has a clear vision for the property, but is allowed to do anything with the property. And you think back to the Phase 1 movies. I mean, I know people have their issues with them, but I think one reason I tend to kind of be on their side more than the more recent Marvel stuff, even though some of them tend to be better, is I think Marvel recognized that like when they hired a director like Jon Favreau or Kenneth Branagh or Joe Johnston to do, in that case, Iron Man, or Thor and Captain America respectively, they had styles that kind of matched the property and what they were going to do with them. And obviously they would kind of do away with that more as became more synonymous with the MCU brand. But you think back to that and you think of like, okay, if they hadn't spent the check with Peyton Reed, doing the Ant-Man movies, and you kind of got that Down with Love guy to come in and do this, I'm not saying it's a perfect film, but it feels like it would have brought more spunk, a little bit more pizzazz to it, maybe something that kind of makes it a little bit more enthusiastic, something that maybe takes a few risks other than just like making Silver Surfer a woman, which isn't really a risk, but that's the only thing that really deviates from. Sure. that's like as far as this really deviates from anything in a traditional sense. So yeah, I mean, I think I think there's such a desire here to just kind of make it baseline competent that they kind of forget about what makes this property kind of fun, which is that it's deliberately kind of kooky and kind of, has a little bit of a chintzy charm to it. I think that's something that people sort of undermine about the less successful adaptations, that like Fantastic Four is supposed to have a kind of B-movie charm to it. It's from the 60s, it's supposed to be a little chintzy, like I said. It's supposed to be a little like goofy. That's what it is. That's why I think it's kind of more appealing than a lot of the other Marvel properties. And I think, you see a little bit of it. You get a kernel of it in that montage that they have where it's like on, fake 16 millimeter film, and you see, Mr. Fantastic fighting the space monkeys or whatever. I forget exactly what that plot line is.
Yeah, Red
but like
Ghost,
stuff like that.
John Malkovich playing it. So it sounds like you're like, hey, why can't that be the movie? Why is it a montage?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming the movie's pretending that like there was a previous version where it's an origin story and they're fighting Mole Man, and we kind of just get like snippets of it, which I think, for a normal, like if we had like a Richard Donner Superman level movie for Fantastic Four, I'd be totally fine with that. But when you do it with this, it's like, I know it's trying to kind of rush things along, but it feels like you haven't seen that one Marvel show. It's like, oh, did they introduce these characters already? I just haven't watched that episode of WandaVision.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. That is the risk, because you were like, well, they didn't take... I mean, they are taking a risk by kind of jumping to what they might think is like the most interesting part. But here's the thing. And because you mentioned like Matt Shakman not really having that signature touch that you're feeling, I felt more Giacchino's kind of touch as a composer than I did the director's kind of flair for the camera, or even the cinematographer. I felt like this movie's kind of all over the place with the cinematography. It has this like middle section that all of a sudden is this like epic sci-fi that's generally really fun to watch. It's really, it's, for me, it was the best part of the movie.
Probably.
And I think a lot of people have said like, yeah, it's really good. It's, that's the only scene like it in the movie though. So there's no real connective tissue between like that and everything else. So, but Giacchino is like throughout the whole movie, you feel that score. And that to me was the most kind of like, yeah, this is the guy who did Incredibles. Of course they hired him for Fantastic Four First Steps. Great idea.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, that is the strange thing to me. You know what worked about WandaVision? I know you didn't watch it. WandaVision kind of worked because it had that nostalgia vibe, that aesthetic, but it built it around a genuine mystery. So that it was like an interactive experience where like week to week, we were like, what's actually going on here? What are the clues? And like people were guessing, and it became a water cooler show for that reason. Part of that was like the lockdown stuff was happening when it was coming out. So we were all stuck at home. And so a lot of people were watching it, but then that works great for a TV show. In this, it's kind of just like, how are we going to stop Galactus? Well, where's the tension in that? Because we know that they probably will, right? And if they don't, we know there's multiverse nonsense. So like, what are the actual stakes? And I asked before, like, what is this movie about? I have a list of what I think this movie is trying to do, and I want your reactions to them. I'm going to start with this. I think this movie is trying to talk about Marvel metatextually. I talked about this in my review. This idea of like Marvel grappling with their legacy and their relevance as an MCU. So I'm talking about the movie stuff, right? Because the film positions Reed Richards as this, I think, like this stand-in for the Marvel brand itself, where he's this brilliant, previously successful, overworked genius. The world loves him. He has all this success. But then there's this big problem that's coming their way that they can't stop, which is Galactus kind of representing, the diminishing returns of like, the Marvel brand's going to devour itself. Like, this can't last forever. What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. And his desperation to solve this problem kind of mirrors Marvel's struggle over the last few years to just kind of throw stuff at the wall in terms of like, well, okay, well, we'll do Ant-Man, but it's like quantum stuff, double down. Or, oh, you didn't like that? Oh, okay, you didn't like Eternals? Like, where we just kind of like gave this independent director who won an Oscar, told her whatever she wanted goes. Like, you didn't like that either? And it's a lot of that, and like Reed just kind of being like so pained. But at the end of it, it's like, well, we just all got to come together. We have to give this big speech. And ultimately the problem is just like, we're just going to do more like what worked before, which is, punch, sacrifice, basic stuff. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't work, because it's like, if you're going to talk about your brand metatextually, the payoff is everything. And I don't think the payoff is there at all.
I mean, that would make sense considering that Kevin Feige is basically the author of these films and not the directors involved. I mean, I took it more general. I just kind of took it as a sort of commentary on the idea of like Reed Richards is this sort of like brainiac scientist guy who's always trying to think about the variables, always trying to, plan everything out as calmly and orderly as possible. And what happens when that guy becomes a father and he has to reckon with the idea of like things are going to always be outside of his control, and he kind of has to trust his kid and learn to like live with that. I think that was the general thematic conceit of it, which I think is fine, but you kind of need to do more with that than just
that's what I'm saying.
The basics. Yeah.
Exactly. And jumping on top of that, I'm really curious what you think about this, because the family itself, right? What makes Fantastic Four so unique, you kind of touched on it already, like the B-movie charm. Part of that B-movie charm is like, they go through all these wild, wacky things, but as this sort of messy, lived-in family. I didn't get any of that from this movie, because you're starting a couple of movies in, basically, they already are kind of like a well-oiled machine. Like, they get along. Ben's already gone through his arc. Reed and Sue are, like, they have their squabbles, and Johnny's a bit of a huckster, right? But they don't kind of have that, like, this could fall apart at any moment energy that you kind of need for a Fantastic Four to feel kind of tense and like, oh man, how are they going to pull this off? They hate each other kind of stuff. The one exception to this, in my opinion, is I do think what they do with Johnny is kind of interesting, of like him trying to prove himself and be like, dude, I was an astronaut. Like, I'm not an idiot, and trying to kind of prove himself. Like, there was a thread there that I thought was interesting, but that was about it. What do you think of that?
Well, I think you forget that the Thing cooks, as if that's not a personality trait. No,
and everybody loves it, right?
I know.
Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, if you want, it's not messy. It's not like he's cooking, but we got to humor him, or like, it doesn't have those messy dynamics. It's all just kind of like hunky dory.
Honestly, with all the dinner scenes and then just having her be the robot there, it just felt like, oh, okay, I guess they're kind of going for a Jetsons thing, where because so much of the movie is in that skyscraper apartment. Yeah,
there's a version of that can be fine. I'm not saying that it has to be that messy lived-in thing, but I guess it's like, what are you replacing that with, really? And to me, it comes off more as like structure and formula rather than that genuine emotional risk. So it's like, okay, if you're going to replace it and you're going to have this family theme here where they really are connected, do something with that. I mean, test it.
I think the idea here maybe this is me overreading it, but I kind of like this idea, which is like, what if we had a Fantastic Four movie that was directed by Reed Richards, which is like a little bit dorky, like kind of matter of fact, and like not super personality driven, but like kind of gets the job done and like knows what to do. And I'd be totally fine with that. Like maybe a more desanitized, Fantastic Four time where superhero movies are a little bit more ubiquitous, if it wasn't this Reed Richards. That felt like, because I think for me, and I don't know, I've kind of gone back and forth on where I am with Pedro Pascal, because I think he can be pretty good as a certain like guy who has his back against the wall, kind of like, chip on his shoulder kind of guy.
Last of Us is his best work, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with his TV stuff, so I can't speak to that, but
that's exactly what Last of Us is. Like, you described it to a T, his character.
Okay. And I think he's better at that than like the sort of bland like guy that they're doing with this, where it's like, yeah, he's trying to be a little like dorky and he's trying to be, a little like fussy, but it kind of feels like he's putting on airs a bit. Like, it doesn't really feel, I don't know, I never really got the authentic nerdiness. It kind of just felt like, oh, I'm like the jock that's like playing the nerd in a high school play kind of thing.
Yeah. His version of being neurotic is just like talking a little bit too fast sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There isn't like a lot of pathos to like him actually making mistakes and that being part of the equation, which like, yeah, he makes mistakes, but like it's the way it goes about it. And like the way a very nerdy person would react to certain things isn't quite there, I guess. I don't know if it's Pascal or if it's just the general writing. You know?
I don't know. I mean,
there's a lot of cooks in this kitchen. Josh Friedman, Eric Pearson, Jeff Kaplan, Ian Springer. A lot of people worked on this. And yeah, that's typical for Marvel, right? But Marvel is still doing the thing that we've been asking them not to do. James Gunn literally said, like, hey, stop doing this, which is don't make these movies before you write the script. Like, it is, if there is one thing that seems to be just murdering Marvel right now, it's that they're doing the Mission Impossible strategy, which is basically like, we're shooting scenes and not giving scripts to the actors. We're changing things as we go. And they're like, Gunn's philosophy is like, we're not going to make the movie unless the script is there. Yeah, you're going to make some changes to the script, but like the script has to be complete. And I've always appreciated that about Gunn as a director. I think that's why the Guardians movies are basically the best things to come out of the Marvel stuff in terms of like a whole complete trilogy. You can just watch it. But you know, maybe I'm overstepping. I shouldn't make it sound like Marvel has found success with it before, but I think it's becoming tired.
It is, yeah. And I think, they found success in pockets, but it's a lot more miss than hit at this point. And I would say even some of the ones that people consider hits have been misses at this point, like Thunderbolts, Deadpool, and Wolverine. And
you finally watched Thunderbolts, which I also was not a fan of. I think I like Fantastic Four a little bit more than Thunderbolts, but not much. Both movies, I'm kind of like, these are like C+ for me.
And also, I hate No Way Home, which I think is genuinely insulting, and I find it bizarre that people like that movie, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I feel like the only ones that I've really kind of come around to post Endgame are the Guardians 3, and I guess that holiday special. That was fine. As well as the Michael Giacchino werewolf thing. That was right.
Yeah. He directed an episode of that. I mean, I like the Marvels. I like No Way Home. I liked most of Shang-Chi. I shouldn't say most, about half.
That was fine. That was fine.
It's just the ending. It kind of ruined that movie. I don't know. I thought She-Hulk was fun, but like kind of dumb.
I liked Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. But
there's been stuff, but to your point, I mean, there hasn't been something that, at least for me, has been like knock my socks off good. The closest to that has been Guardians 3, which wasn't knock my socks off good. It was just like really good. It was like, oh yeah, this is a great way to end it. I enjoyed it a lot, but I've enjoyed Superman way more than anything I've seen from Marvel since Endgame, and that includes No Way Home, Deadpool, Wolverine, the stuff that was like the big, money-making hit. I want to talk about the Galactus thing, actually, because this kind of ties into that too. Because Galactus, easy metaphor. You can do a lot of things with that. I think there's a lot of anxiety in the world today of feeling like there's this inevitable thing, and like everybody just feels like bad stuff's happening. There's nothing we can do about it. So you could read it into that a little bit too. Read, no pun intended. But I do think that if you peel it back to more, again, like the metatextual Marvel stuff, I think that it can also symbolize a lot of cultural burnout, a lot of like audience apathy, specifically how the technology has gotten to a point where how do you impress people with spectacle anymore? It just feels like audiences aren't impressed by anything, because even if you have this devourer of worlds, right? You have this bigger threat. What could be bigger than this? In terms of like, unless you go, that's why they had to go to the multiverse thing. That's why because they're like, well, we already saved like the universe. What do we do now? Galactus kind of like reads a little bit into that cultural anxiety. But again, it's kind of just a little bit flat because they make it comic accurate, I guess. He looks kind of like Galactus, but I don't feel it. But I don't feel anything. I don't feel that anxiety that they're trying to do through the metaphor. I just feel kind of like, here's another obstacle. Okay, they're going to come up with a solution. Even the way they come up with a solution, I mean, the way they seed it, like in the first act, is so transparent. It just comes off as lazy. And a lot of this comes off as lazy. That's why I think it should have been, or it was originally conceived as a longer thing or even a show, because it feels like they had these threads kind of planned out, but then they were like, well, we have to do a movie that's literally 114 minutes, one of the shortest Marvel films, which is, I'm not against that inherently, but it has to be 114 minutes where everything comes together in a satisfying way.
I agree, but I will say there was a relief for me. Like, it gets to a certain point in the plot, and I'm like, oh, great. Now we have to do the, like, extra hour of plot. And then I remembered this movie's only 2 hours long. I was like, wait, that just means we probably only have, like, 25 minutes left. And I was like really relieved. I was like, oh, good. Okay, this is wrapping up. Actually, it's not just like
high-fiving somebody behind you in the row and they have the same thought.
Yeah, but I guess where I'm going to push back, not only on your opinion, but I feel like the general opinion is that I think I kind of preferred the Galactus Silver Surfer stuff to the actual Fantastic Four stuff, with the exception of Ebon Moss-Bachrach, or how you pronounce his name?
Ebon Moss-Bachrach,
who I liked a lot in this. I actually think he's really fun as
he's
the Thing.
Good. His scenes on the street, I loved it. I was like, that's why I wanted to give me a whole TV show of just the Thing, like living in Queens.
I really like the idea that he's still like that tortured sort of like, hardened exterior, soft interior thing that is, central to the Thing.
But he's also going through therapy, so he's like kind of dealing with it. He's,
right. But I like the idea that he's just like a pretty mild-mannered, like, he's made some peace with it, and like the public likes him. They're not afraid of him anymore, and he's like just kind of a guy. And he's just like, hey, I do it for the kids, like he's a New Yorker. I like
he goes. Well, he actually like is a good pilot in this, and he gets to do that,
Right. And I love the Thing having a beard. Maybe light spoiler, I guess, but the Thing beard, it's in the trailer. That's great. I love that. I thought that was fantastic. I
agree. Intended. That was fun. That was more of the like messy family dynamic stuff I wanted a little bit more of, right? Where I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a little bit like, that's getting into the lane that I think works best.
Yeah. And I like this. I thought the stuff with him and Natasha Lyonne was like charming. It's not really in the movie much. I like that he's allowed to be Jewish in this. I thought that was cool.
I like Natasha Lyonne in general. She was good in Bad Guys too. But again, it's like, if you're don't tease us. Give us scenes. Like those weren't scenes where he talks to her and all this stuff. Like,
sure,
she's in like we see her like 3 times really doing anything and nothing happens. That's what I mean. It's like, where are the big questions? Where are the crisis moments? Where's the writing? Where is the stuff that gets you being like, whoa, what's the Thing going to do? Is he going to go talk to her? I hope. Like, there's none of that. There's kind of like, oh, he's kind of looking at her and then he walks away. Like, I don't know. It's just, come on.
I feel like there was some invisible force field where she could not leave the synagogue. Like, all of her scenes are in the synagogue.
Yeah, that's right.
And she cannot leave it.
Sue, what are you doing? You anti-Semite. You.
Right, yeah.
I know you already talked about the 60s aesthetic, the vibe, and how it kind of gestures at the style. Sometimes it's a stand-in for substance, or I guess you wouldn't even say it was like a style. I think that I like the costumes a lot. I like the look. I think you kind of agree too, yeah. And I like how everything fits the orchestral vision of it, right? When the music comes in, you see the suits, you see the way the powers work, the way they use their powers. I was a fan. It does feel like they use their powers like they've had them for a long time. It's just kind of like second nature. There are some applications, for example, of Sue's powers that are genuinely interesting, that were creative, that had me going like, oh, nice. Like that kind of thing. I think just what's missing for me in that style is the meaning of it, and how it looks the part. It really does. And I want to see more of the characters and all that stuff. It kind of reminds me of Force Awakens, where I'm like, I like the look of this. I like the suggestion of this, but give me the story, give me the actual like A to B with these characters. I hope we get it in the next one. And in Star Wars case, we did. We got The Last Jedi, and that was the last Star Wars movie that ever came out, right? But yeah, I genuinely think that's what this movie is for me. It's just kind of like, it almost feels like a prologue to me. It doesn't feel like a movie.
I don't know. I mean, I think the irony of this being treated like a sequel is that I'm more interested in like what they would do with this after this. Like if they hired, let's just say, Matthew Weiner to do like a pass on the script to kind of flesh it out for a sequel, and then maybe got, I don't know, somebody, I already said Peyton Reed, but I'm trying to think of a director that's like maybe a little bit more, established, that has like kind of some credentials with like this sort of thing. The only thing that comes to mind right now is Jay Roach, though, because I'm thinking of Austin Powers, because this movie kept reminding me of Austin Powers, because Galactus's whole thing is like, I want that baby, which every time I saw that, I just thought about Fat Bastard wanting to eat Mini-Me and Austin Powers, the Spy Who Shagged Me. He's
Oh
like,
man,
because that's the same thing. He gives Galactus as the ultimatum of like, you can keep your planet if I have the baby. And my mind instantly goes to Fat Bastard being like, I'll make a deal with you, Dr. Evil. You can keep your mojo, but I want that baby.
You know who my pick would be? And this is gonna be scandalous, I know. I think Brad Bird could make a pretty good follow-up to
this. Sure.
I know that like he's been in live action jail since Tomorrowland. I forget if he did anything since Tomorrowland, but
Incredibles 2.
No, I mean live action.
Mr. Pixar Theory.
I said live action. Give me a rest. I do think he could. I mean, he's already done a Fantastic Four movie twice, and the first one is an all-timer. So yeah, he gets family dynamics. He gets the tone balance of that kind of thing. I think it's his comfort level. I think the issues with Tomorrowland come down to things that I think could be solved in terms of the Marvel machine kind of getting that stuff right. I can't think of any other directors, honestly, that would fit the bill. Maybe Joseph Kosinski if they wanted to. I don't know. I just feel like that's not really his lane. But yeah, I'd have to think about that. The last thing I wanted to bring up, though, was the Silver Surfer, who I think is kind of fun in this, kind of chilling, emotionless. I like the take. I like the thematic tension of the character of like, you can tell she feels something for the doomed, but she's putting on this performance, this lie that she feels nothing. And the movie does a decent job of organically peeling that back. Her dynamic with Johnny, a lot of that stuff did feel right. It seemed like that was the story thread that got, like, between that and Reed and Sue dealing with the baby stuff, like, those are the two main things that got the most attention with the writing. Like, we got good scenes for that. We actually got, like, some kind of build up, some kind of, like, this is what we're going for. And for her, that aloofness kind of paralleling almost the film's sort of emotional distance at times. I don't know. I thought that was cool. I gotta say, a small thing, I suppose, but she gets to actually surf. Not just kind of like flying through the air, but surfing on lava, surfing on rocks. It was like Mario Kart up in that thing. I loved it.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
And Garner does a great job.
Yeah, no, I thought she was cool. I like the idea of ironically making her a little bit more human in this and like kind of exploring like what drives this sort of, cold space surfing being, and I thought, yeah, she did a nice job. I thought her performance, she was able to bring a little bit more pathos to it than I think some of her other contemporaries who, I think the cast here, they've all proven themselves in something or another, I think. But most of them don't really get a lot to do other than, I think, Ebon Moss, who is the only one that really seems to like get to have a character here. I think they tried with Pedro Pascal a little bit. I feel like he's just ultimately kind of miscast, maybe. I think Vanessa Kirby does a nice job, but they don't give her a ton to do. And then Johnny Storm, Joseph Quinn is a fine actor, but like I just felt like there was nothing really there. I know, like you said,
really?
Like they try to like kind of, pay some lip service to the idea that he's smarter than he looks and all that, but I felt like that was entirely vapid. Like I didn't get anything really from him in this.
That was like one of the only things I got.
Again, like I said, yeah. The only one that I felt like I really got personality from, well, two. The only two I felt like I got really personality from of the Fantastic Four were him and Herbie. And Herbie's fun. I liked Herbie.
Herbie was a nice robot. Yeah, I think Vanessa Kirby's just kind of like the constant voice of reason, doesn't get to do much beyond that, and has like basically the is overpowered in certain parts of this, which is cool to see. And I gotta disagree. I think Joseph Quinn kind of brings it together for me. I think that he kind of saves the movie for me from being like a total bore, because I wasn't that bored or anything. I was just consistently disappointed. I gotta say, I was let down by how little Paul Walter Hauser was in this. It was a fun setup for him.
Yeah, I felt like the movie really does him a disservice because he's pretty well cast. I think he's trying really hard to make it pop, but he's given nothing to do. like
Well, there's a
nothing
whole
at all to
scene.
do.
So Vanessa Kirby even said like there were like 1 or 2 scenes with his character that were supposed to better establish his dynamic with Sue that they cut out of the movie. And so all I'm saying is release the Richard Jewell cut.
I mean, it does seem like, I don't know if you notice, he's on Letterboxd, and he is like very honest on Letterboxd, which I really respect. And he's been like he'll give honest reviews for his own movies if you pay attention. And on there, he's been hyping up the Naked Gun movie because he has a pretty big role in that. And then I don't think he's talked at all about Fantastic Four. So I think that's kind of maybe a little telling. Maybe it's me reading into it, but I feel like that seems a little telling to me.
Maybe he's just like, yeah, this movie's doing so well. I don't need a promo, nothing.
Maybe I think it's more of a like Fantastic Four is like it's a gig, and Naked Gun's like something he's actually passionate, inspired by.
Yeah, kind of like how Jack Black was like, oh yeah, Minecraft. I forgot we made that.
I mean,
as opposed to like Mario, he went all out.
I feel like he was about the same for Minecraft. I don't know. I don't really remember.
There was
him
like an interview he did where he was like, oh, maybe it wasn't Minecraft. Maybe it was another movie he did where generally they mentioned, the host mentioned it to him and he was like, oh yeah, like maybe it wasn't Minecraft. But any final thoughts in this movie? I mean, it's making the money, $200 million budget, high budget obviously, but box office wise, it's at $250 million worldwide.
I mean, you say that, but I feel like it's still getting overshadowed by Superman in the broad scheme of things. And I think it had like a 60%.
Well, yes.
Yeah. And I feel like it had a pretty steep drop. Like it had like a 60-something% drop between its first weekend and the second weekend. I don't know. I don't know what your audience response was like. Mine felt like kind of muted. Like
mine was quiet as a stone. It was a press screening, so I can't say it was a great example.
I think you can, kind of gauge the room though, in some respects.
People didn't really laugh much. There wasn't much sound at the end of it. People were just kind of like quiet and got up and left. Superman was different. Superman had like laughs. People, like almost everybody stayed through the credits. It was very different kind of mood. But part of that was it was also a promo screening. So all the critics were on like the top floor watching over the peons. Sorry. But even in the critics section, like, yeah, it was popping, and it was like full, like the whole theater was full. This one was so in San Francisco, we have one of the biggest screens in California, obviously the biggest one in Northern California. You have to go to LA to get anything bigger in terms of the IMAX. It's one of it's awesome. And one of my deepest regrets, Will Ashton, is that I didn't take you to that theater while you were here. But that IMAX has a lot of seats. And so you can tell, like when we saw Oppenheimer there, it was like almost completely full. And that's impressive. Like I almost never see that theater full. This movie, on the other hand, was like a fifth full, something like that. And so look, make of it what you will. Superman, I'm seeing memes everywhere for Superman. I'm seeing a lot of like internet stuff around this movie. It's made $522 million worldwide as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not rooting for Fantastic Four to fail at all. Like I genuinely, but I do wonder like if it's going to have a similar trajectory to Thunderbolts. I think it's going to make more money than Thunderbolts, a lot more. Thunderbolts only made 382 worldwide, huge flop. Yeah. But to that end, this movie is like already within like kind of spitting distance of that. So what do you think? Do you think Fantastic Four is going to like maybe kind of be in between? Because Superman hasn't made that much. I mean, it's like 522 million. The good news for Superman is the budget isn't like huge. I mean, it's like I have to double check actually.
I think the big thing is that, unlike something like Thunderbolts, where the response is like, what the hell is a Thunderbolts? Like it's like what is this? I think with this,
I was wrong about Superman had a reported budget of 225 million. So that's my fault. I thought it was a bit leaner, but my bad.
No, that was an expensive movie. No, I think, it's going to be like Mr. Fantastic itself. It's going to have some long legs. It's going to stretch. I think because Fantastic Four is a brand name. People know what Fantastic Four is. Even if like you're, Joe Bob from Arkansas, you know what Fantastic Four is, even if you don't know what Thunderbolts is. So I think in a general sense, like people would be more inclined to watch this than a lot of the recent Marvel stuff. However, I do think, like you said, even though I don't remember my audience being like over the moon with Superman either. I remember there being more of a response to it than this, where it seemed a lot more muted with this film. Even though it was like a pretty packed audience, it just seemed like the audience was just kind of like, yeah, it was a movie. But I think, like you said, with Superman, people are talking about it online. There's a lot of chatter with it. It seems like there's genuine enthusiasm for that film. With this movie, it just seems like, I know you were saying earlier that there were some really positive reactions, but the general response I've seen in real life and online just seems to be like, yeah, it's fine. It's all right. Even among like the superhero, like super fans, it just seems like, yeah, it does the job. And I feel like yeah. I feel like that's going to like push it, but not make it like a major hit outside of just like kind of like, limping its way to where it needs to be at the box office.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't think that these movies are even going to necessarily take anything away from each other. I think that they kind of feed into each other pop culture wise, like both of them being successful kind of helps each of them, because I'm already hearing about like double features and people feeling like, oh yeah, there are good superhero movies at the box office that I can check out right now. So I think that there is that element, and also that both of these movies kind of have a pretty strong lane for the next few weeks, right? Finishing out the summer to make a couple more 100 million or whatever it is. And so I think that both films are going to do fine. And look, there's also something to be said about, it's a weird kind of summer where we don't really have like a kind of late July kind of like big release, tentpole release, something kind of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, for example, or what have you. It feels like we have like Eddington, we have Bad Guys 2, we have Nobody 2. Like it feels like August is usually pretty limp, but it feels almost like, yeah, maybe the studios were a little gun shy this year because of these two big superhero movies. I don't know.
I'm gonna probably disagree with that, just because, well, for one, I was gonna say earlier that I think Fantastic Four would, box office wise, would probably be in a better place if this came out, say, like July 4th weekend before Superman.
Sure.
Because I think people would have been
even
like
June instead of Elio.
Right. I think if this had come out, a little bit earlier, before, if it beat the Superman rush, it probably would have been a bigger hit box office wise. Like I said, I think it's still going to do quite well overall, but I just feel like people aren't, it's kind of hard to go off of Superman, which I don't even think is a perfect film or anything, but like we said, there's genuine enthusiasm for that, and people are coming at this and they're just comparing it to that film, and it's like kind of hard for it to find its own lane. But I think you're undermining.
To be fair, though, Fantastic Four had a much bigger opening weekend than Superman, like over $100 million more made. So
is that right? I don't remember hearing that. But
yeah. Superman's, right. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure Superman opened 127 million.
Yeah. What I will say, though, as far as the August fair, and, obviously it's going to play out how it's going to play out, I think Bad Guys 2, it's been a little bit since Elio. I think family movies tend to do pretty well. I think you might be potentially undermining how well Naked Gun does. Like, there's genuine, like, people are really excited about that movie, and it's getting a lot of, like, hyperbolic comedy is saved reactions. And if that spreads with word of mouth, I think it's going to do pretty well. And I feel like Weapons has a chance of doing pretty well if it can maintain the sort of like, oh, what is this sort of buzzy, like, oh, I'm intrigued buzz. I mean, maybe it'll fall flat if people see the movie and they're like, yeah, it was okay. But I feel like for now, there's some serious potential with that one. But obviously, those are all, in classic August fashion, super wild cards compared to the safer bet of Fantastic Four. But I don't know. I feel like
Naked Gun is so much of like a streaming kind of movie. I don't know how many people are going to go to the theater. I'm excited to see it. I want to see it soon. And also, I flubbed.
Yeah,
I flubbed. So Superman and Fantastic Four actually roughly made about the same. I mixed it up because I thought Superman was 127 worldwide. I think that was just domestic. So my fault.
I was going to say, I thought they got like a kind of similar thing, but the vibe seems to be, from what I can tell, like Fantastic Four had a steeper drop after its second weekend compared
much steeper
to Superman.
And then also, to be fair too, I think that this movie, Superman, it had a lower Rotten Tomatoes, not by much, but like we'll do the Rotten Tomatoes game. I accidentally gave you a hint, but I do think it's worth kind of bringing into the equation the fact that it was more polarizing, right? You kind of mentioned already, like there's discussion about it online. People are talking about it on things like TikTok and Instagram. People feel like they want to go see Superman so they can be part of the discussion. What discussion is happening with Fantastic Four? I could not tell you. Nobody is coming out of Fantastic Four being like, wow, that movie really had this to say, or like, it's not making people mad. It's not making people that happy. It's just kind of like you said, that's a movie. But to me, it's like, no, I want my movies to be a little bit like Superman is an example of that. That is a movie because it has something to say and it has the risk to say it.
Sure. For sure. Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. Yeah, we'll see.
This is weird. We don't usually agree this much on superhero stuff. What's happening?
I don't know. But yeah, I the only thing I'm going to go back to, and I know this isn't really the focus of the film, but it does seem like Naked Gun, the response I keep hearing about it from people is like, you have to see us in a theater with a crowd. So I think that's going to do better theatrically than you're giving credit. I also, maybe this is me overreading it, but like, I kind of get the sense that like, even though the reactions are a lot more mixed, that like Happy Gilmore 2 is kind of revitalizing interest in like the comedy again as a film. And that's obviously a Netflix film. But I'm wondering if that's kind of weighing the appetite for Naked Gun. And maybe
sure. I mean, it's a huge success for Netflix. Oh my gosh. Happy Gilmore 2. Everybody's watching that. Side tangential note, no other comment. Happy Gilmore 2, liked it.
I thought it was all right. I was holding my reaction because I didn't know if we were actually going to do an episode on that since you've seen it.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I feel like that's
I enjoyed it.
It's like, it's just exactly what you would expect from a decent sequel to a very good movie. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah, not quite as quotable, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's some decent gags in that one for sure. All right, let's play the Rotten Tomatoes game for the Fantastic Four First Steps. Will Ashton, I did give you a hint. That's on me. But let's see if you can get it exactly right. 355 reviews have been counted. You know one of them's mine. And I did give it the rotten. And it was a tough call because I was like, do I want to give it the rotten? I mean, yeah, I did. I was kind of like, you know what? I was pretty disappointed coming out of this movie. Maybe I'll like it a bit more on the second watch, though. I reserve judgment on that to be sure. But what do you think the Rotten Tomatoes score is, Mr. Will?
Well, you suggested that this has a higher, maybe slightly higher RT score than Superman, which I remember being surprisingly lower than I thought it was going to be. So I also overestimate this one as well, but I'm going to guess it's a cool 86%.
You got it exactly right. And I blame myself. I mean, I'm making this too easy for you, but hey, we still got other games to play, Mr. Will. We have the popcorn meter, which tests the audience score, what it used to be the audience score. 10,000 plus verified ratings, so we have a pretty decent score here. Will, what do you think? Do you think this one is what they call verified hot?
That's so
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming the Rotten Tomatoes score, and I know you said there are some people who really came out of this Johnny Storm hot, but I feel like probably more than not, 3/4 of the reviews are just like, yeah, it was fine. And they probably gave it like a fresh and like a 3 out of 5 star kind of way. Like, it did what it needed to do. I got my popcorn. What more do you ask? What kind of thing, as opposed to like full out raves that, you know, Superman seems to have gotten in a more verbose sort of way. But I will say, you know, I think this is one of those rare times where I feel like the critics and the audience scores are going to be kind of close to one another. Usually the audience score tends to be higher, if not much higher than the critic score. But I think this is going to be around the same, if not slightly lower than where the critics are. I'm going to say 83%.
Unfortunately, Will, it is not 83%. It's actually a good bit higher. It's 92%. And, you know, to your point, though, because we don't have average ratings anymore on Rotten Tomatoes like we used to. And we'll look at the Letterboxd. But if you look at the Metacritic, I know we don't usually look at Metacritic. We're too busy. But the Metacritic for Fantastic Four is lower than Superman, even though Superman has a lower critic score. So Superman is 83, right? This one's 86, but the Metascore for Fantastic Four is 65 and Superman 68. So to your point, the people who liked Superman really liked it. And there weren't as many middling reviews. There were some scathing, like, this Superman sucks, as opposed to this movie, Fantastic Four, where people were a little bit more like, sure. The Thing. It's clobbering time. He said it.
Yeah.
But we'll do cinema score. I know that's
I feel like it's. I was gonna say actually we should do not to jump the gun a little bit, but I feel like I was already spoiled on the Letterboxd score. I think I saw it by accident, and you already mentioned Letterboxd, so let's just kind of do that one because I think I saw it was like 3.5 a couple days ago.
Well, for extra context, letterboxd.com, check it out. Great website, but 790,000 watches logged and lots of hearts for this one, 294,000. So the average rating can be anywhere from 0 to 5. And your guess is 3.5?
Well, like I said, I think I was spoiled on that one. So I'm going to give the caveat that I feel like I saw that not intentionally. Like I was just logging it, and I'm usually really good about overlooking the score. But I feel like this time I saw the score and I remembered it because I was like, really, like 3.5. Like it seems like it's not a super high score, but it feels high for this, which is very much in the like 3.2 range is what it should be. But I feel like it was actually, I would say probably maybe even 2.8. I don't know. It's like in the, like, I don't know. I don't really know where I stand on this movie per se. I feel like I'm just like on the fence, but maybe like you kind of leaning more negative at the moment. But I feel like it was higher than I anticipated and what I feel like it should be. So I'm going to say, I think it was 3.5 when I saw it.
It's actually gone up. Not to blow your brains, but it's 3.6. It went up a whole 0.1. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I think it's because Letterboxd skews younger, generally speaking. And I think for young people, they're probably, I think in this case, yeah, they're probably less demanding. Like, they might have watched, the 2000s one, but they were like, they don't have nostalgia for it or anything. And, the reputation with the 2015 one is just like, it's bad, stinky doo-doo garbage, whatever. And so I feel like, they're probably coming into this just more like, oh, I've heard of the Fantastic Four, but I've never really had a relationship with them. Let's check them out. And, this is like baseline competent. And they're like, good enough for me.
I don't know. I don't see anything here that really appeals to Gen Z much, but not that I saw at least. But hey, I mean, I'm not in the majority of opinions, so I can't say much.
That's not true. This whole movie is about people having to come to terms with the fact that outside of their understanding or control, the world is ending and they have to figure out how to save babies. Yeah, that's something I think Gen Z can really relate to.
Fair enough. But yeah, because there's nothing relatable to this movie in the sense that, like, in the world of Fantastic Four, things are great. Like, before the big threat happens, everybody gets along. Maybe it's the wish fulfillment. Maybe it's like, oh, why can't the world be more like this?
Which, I have to say, for as much lip service as a movie pays to, like, the idea of, like, community and them being, like, these pillars of society, this movie feels really small, weirdly. Yeah. Like, I feel like there's that one black best friend character who's, like, just kind of around sometimes.
We have to get her reaction shots.
Right. And then there are, like, a handful of extras that they have, and then the press, and that's, like, about it as far as, like, the world's concerned.
Well, they have that, like, famous British actor. I always forget his name, who is, like, the Ed Sullivan kind of guy.
Oh, yeah. The top
they keep coming back to him. He's fun. He plays Sherlock's brother in Sherlock and so many other things. But anyway, cinema score.
That reminds me.
You just don't want to do the cinema score, do you?
Well, I will do the cinema score. I promised the last thing, but I feel like we were talking about Mad Men, and then we're talking about Fantastic Four. I forgot to mention the guy that plays in the Roger Corman one, Dr. Doom, is Archie. What's his last name? Whitman.
Archibald Whitman? Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know.
Don Draper's dad is
Dr. Doom.
Dr. Doom in the
Don Draper would
movie.
say, "Yeah, I know."
Right. Yeah, I know.
He's a big villain.
Because he has, like, a very kind of distinctive, like, face. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, like, angular in a certain way. And I was like, this guy looks so familiar, but I don't know where I know him from. And I looked up and I was like, oh, that's where I know him from.
Yeah.
He got, he got kicked by a horse.
Spoilers for Mad Men.
Sorry.
Okay. Cinema score. Cinema score can be anywhere from F to A+. What do you think, Will?
I think everyone's going with the classic good enough B.
Nope. It's an A-.
Jeez, all right.
which, if you recall, that was the same as Superman. So yeah, the folks in Vegas, which, Melissa's on a trip right now to Vegas, so maybe she can catch one of these screenings herself.
I hope so. We need a mole man on the ground. Like, we need somebody.
Ace reporter.
Yeah,
Melissa
we need a Jimmy Olsen or somebody to just infiltrate the cinema score screen. I just want to know so much about it.
Sure. Let's take a look at friends of the show on Letterboxd. Matt Serafini gave it the old heart. He said it's pretty darn milquetoast and the stakes are largely non-existent, but I still enjoy the movie. More to say there. Check out his Letterboxd. I see you left a review for this. Oh gosh, what did you say, Will? I'm just gonna take a little Jonathan peek.
Oh
yeah. Okay, the joke you made on the show about Austin Powers, that's where you workshopped it. Okay, I see you. Glad you got some help there. Sam Nolan saw the film. I haven't seen him log something in a minute. He gave it 3.5 stars. Looks like he liked the film. I'm happy to see that. Let's see, who else? Corey Everett, friend of the show and creator of Cinephile, the game, gave it 2.5 stars. So he's a little bit more Team John on this one. I take it you're kind of like 3 out of 5 if you had to do it. Closer to that, around that.
I'm somewhere between 2.5 out of 5 or 3. I'm like,
okay.
I'm bouncing back and forth. I don't really have a strong opinion.
Fair enough. Aaron Dicer, friend of the show, he gave it 4 stars. He's taken one look at Fantastic Four and he's saying the name fits. Let's see, any other friends? Oh yes, Ryan Oliver, friend of the show, 3.5 stars and a heart. And
yeah, he liked
Ryan. Ryan has a heart. We know that for sure. Emma Sasic, a little bit happier with the film than us. She gave it 3 stars. So Auntie M, aunt of the show, liked this one a good bit, apparently, or liked this one enough, I should say. Robert Yanez Jr. just logged it. No heart, no review. You decide. was Rob's response to this one.
You better believe I saw it.
That's right. Corey Woodruff, no heart, but he did leave a little review. You know, it's a great movie, The Incredibles. That's a masterpiece. Such a wonderful movie. Watch that. This one is I liked Herbie. Just wait for this to hit Disney Plus. Great review from Corey. Sounds like you and Corey are of a kind, of course, on Herbie. No surprise.
I liked Herbie, yeah. My favorite, actually, I would say one of my top 3 favorite moments in the movie, without giving too much away, is when Herbie's like talking to the baby. He's just doing a little like a play actor, like with his little mechanical pincher arms.
That was fun. Herbie is the soul, the heart and soul of the group. Jake Holland, friend of the show, gave it 4 stars and a heart. So he liked it a good bit. Let's see, anybody else here? A lot of people saw this one. Alex Billington, also 4 stars and a heart. Clearly liked it as well. Kristen Lopez, one of the lower scores I've seen. So even lower than me, 2 stars. Which was funny because when I saw her, she posted her review, the headline made it sound like she might have liked it a lot more. But when you actually read the review, you're like, oh, yeah, no, not a fan. Let's see, anybody else here? Man of the Jedi, friend of the show, 2.5 stars. So yeah, about where we're at. And that'll about do it. Well, that'll do it in general for Cinemaholics. Thanks so much for listening. Well, of all the August movies, I guess Naked Gun would be the one that I would want to talk about and see soon. Out of everything that I can think of. Bad Guys 2, I don't have much to say. Just read the review. There's not much discussion to be had. And I don't want to make you go to the theater to see it well.
I mean, that's kind of how I remember feeling about the first one, which is like...
The sequel's a little bit better.
Okay.
It has a little bit of a better plot. And then some of the set pieces are a bit more inspired. But, and stylistically, it's still cool. But, I mean... it's not Kung Fu Panda. It's not How to Train Your Dragon.
The only thing I really remember about the first one was like the Pulp Fiction inspired opening. And it's like done it's made to look like one take. And I was like, oh, okay, that was a fun opening. And that's really all I really remember about it.
There's a little bit more of that here, like a little bit more craft around this like space sequence. It's kind of cool, but not enough to be like get to the theater while you still can kind of stuff. But okay, thanks so much for listening to Cinemaholics. Check out cinemaholics.com for episodes of the show, plus written stuff from me and Will. We write reviews on there and other places too, but also on cinemaholics.com, including Will's column, Franchise Fixations. You can check out his detailed thoughts on Final Destination Bloodlines, which I highly recommend, and other stuff from the column as well. I don't know if you have anything else coming down the pike. I think you have like one thing that you have finished, Medea.
I have a write-up on Medea's Destination Wedding, which, in my opinion, is my favorite of the ones I've written so far.
That should be coming out soon. I assume you'll be doing one for Naked Gun, because that's a franchise.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm writing one for that. I've started one for Superman and one for 28 Years Later. I'm going to try to finish those. And I'm sure I'm going to write one for Fantastic Four. So those 4 movies, I'm sure I'll write something or another about.
Sounds good to me. And to my end, we have fall season coming up. So Telluride, we have some big film festivals just in general hitting the pike. So good chance that Will and I are going to be seeing some good stuff pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. For now, thank you so much for listening from the Internet, California. I'm John Negroni.
And from the Internet, Pennsylvania, I'm Will Ashton. Excelsior.
It's finishing the show time.
It's clobbering time.